Hey, what's up, party people? Welcome to a happy, fun-filled Monday morning SJU. We got a lot of news today. ScarJo is fighting Disney Black Widow style. Who's got who in the leg scissors? We've got a Venom 2 trailer. Two Venoms. Too much? No, not enough. And we got some other bits and bobs, including there is a man with a drill crawling around in my attic, and if you hear something that sounds like that, that's what it is. We'll roll with it. Introducing, you know her, you love her, Emma Fyffe, our newly minted Fandom gaming producer. Hey, Emma.
Hey, it's great to be back. One of the last things that I filmed in person before everything shut down was a marathon day of, I believe, 6 episodes of SJU.
That sounds about right.
You know
yeah.
what?
We're like, this will get us through the quarantine.
This will totally get us through the quarantine. And by the end of it, I think I wasn't even speaking English anymore. It was just straight up gibberish.
Yeah.
So hopefully I will be a little more eloquent.
Oh, yeah, we all got more eloquent during this time.
We definitely got more eloquent during this time. I mean, I was primarily just talking to my cats, so I'm pretty sure that is the height of thoughtful communication.
Nailing it. So yeah, keep that same energy. And Danielle, hello, welcome back.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm debuting new hair. It's very exciting.
The debut
I saw
of Danielle's
it in
new hair.
person on the beach, and it looked lovely. So
Mwah.
yes.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to talk all about wigs when we get to Venom 2. But first,
Yes.
ScarJo. This happened last week, and there's been some shots fired in both directions. I'll briefly recap if you're not up on it yet. Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney for a breach of contract, that they're basically holding back her profits from ticket sales because of the simultaneous release on Disney Plus. They did not clear that with her, nor did they renegotiate the deal to compensate her once they changed the release strategies. The way these Marvel movies are usually structured is that they get bonuses based on how well they do in theaters. And she is alleging, I think quite correctly, that when you put something up on Disney Plus at the same time, it's not going to sell as many tickets in a movie theater. So things are going back and forth. Of course, Marvel, taking no crap from nobody, said, what did they say? It was really annoying. Someone find the quote. They have no merit, and it is especially sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. They played the COVID card. Sorry, we're not paying you $50 million, up to $50 million that you could have made. But COVID, people, COVID.
Mhm.
What am I missing anything to this point? There's a lot of text, so fact check me as I go, please.
Yeah, I think that is the vast majority of the lawsuit, as far as I understand it, which is basically that because there is no clause in these contracts at this juncture, I think that going forward, we're going to see basically including in actors' contracts, like them getting a portion of Disney Plus premium sort of sales. I mean, obviously there was a lot of hullabaloo over HBO with their simultaneous releases of films like, I don't know, the upcoming The Suicide Squad, which is a huge blockbuster film that is getting a simultaneous release on streaming. And that's not even a premium situation. In the case of Disney, it feels like they could very easily include something that the actors would get a little bit of a kickback from these, effectively the premium sales, because you can buy it for $30. It's not like it's just included with Disney Plus. You do have to be a Disney Plus subscriber, but yeah, that basically she was due additional money that she has missed out on, very specifically because of the fact that the movie was released simultaneously on demand.
And also heavily pirated. So even if you do add that into the contracts, like being able to watch those day and date, like it's going to be interesting with those contracts. I wonder if they're going to start doing things where it's like act of God, like, well, we would have released it in all of these, but there was a pandemic, womp womp. So then like we couldn't,
But it's pretty cut and dry, it seems, in this case, because there is there's like a smoking gun email from someone at Marvel to one of her people saying that, like, we're still talking about the same kind of wide release, right? And if not, we're gonna have to go talk about the deal again. And they're like, yep, everything's exactly the same until it wasn't. Which just seems like it's such an unforced error, so seemingly dumb, because this exact same situation happened. You mentioned the Suicide Squad. Like, Warner Brothers announced, okay, we're gonna release day and date everything on HBO Max. Everybody freaked out. Patty Jenkins freaked out. A lot of their top talent freaked out, and they're like, oh, whoops, we almost got away with it. Here, have all this money. And now we can do it, because that's the what they're doing is like the Netflix model is like they give you a huge check up front and then that's it. You don't make anything based on performance. You don't make any residuals. Maybe not.
You get a buyout essentially.
Yeah. So Warner Brothers bought everybody out.
I heard Ryan Reynolds' Netflix deal might be different. Like when they're truly trying to get those A-listers, there may be a little bit more of like a percentage thing with the thing. But for the most part, you're right. And I will just say one clarification. It sounds like a stupid one, but this has all been through Disney. The lawsuit is for Disney, not Marvel Studios. Yes. Obviously, it's a subsidiary. And it's been Disney PR members making these things. There's clearly been Kevin Feige trying to distance himself from this. Who knows if that's true or not, but clearly he's trying to.
So the Feige thing is interesting, because as far as Feige's involvement in all of this goes, the main thing that's come out are basically articles saying that Kevin Feige is appalled that this is happening to Scarlett Johansson. It's like, well, why don't you do something about it, dude? Like,
it feels like you're the one that can fix it. Yeah.
Well, he can fix it. I mean, the only card he has to play though, because he's not controlling the contracts and stuff like that, is to say like, okay, pay her or I'm out. And you got to figure that he's got to be their number one. He's the most important Disney employee. Yes. Bigger than Mickey Mouse. Bigger than, I don't know who else works for him.
How dare you!
Bigger than the person in the Gaston suit at Disneyland. Like if he's not happy, they are really screwed. So, and it's really, it's interesting. This is just, I don't think that this could have happened from anybody else, because speaking of Scarlett Johansson, because this is her last movie on her Marvel deal. She's got nothing to lose. She's done 9 of them already. She's already got a very well established career. Plenty of other studios will work with her. So like she's in a, granted on one level it's like boo-hoo, millionaire doesn't get more millions, but on the other level it's like she's the only type of person who could have stood up to them.
There is definitely a level here of it being like a Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla sort of capitalism situation where it's like we're talking about stunningly wealthy corporation versus stunningly wealthy person. But at the same time, it is interesting that they played this angle, the COVID angle of basically she came out and said, hey, Disney, pay me what you owe me. And Disney came back at her and said, why do you hate children?
That was not the best response. And like, I feel like you bring up the importance of keeping Feige happy. That means that they're going to like try to settle this out of the views of the public, right?
I'm really surprised that they didn't already. Like, I'm surprised that it got this far that we even heard about it, because normally it seems like this would be the kind of thing that would have already been solved, because it doesn't make, I'm wondering if they thought that pulling that COVID card, was enough for them to say that it's going to make Scarlett Johansson look bad enough that we can go ahead and let this come out. And granted, ScarJo, it's one of those things where it's like, she's not the perfect person to do this, because she is already so wealthy and she's had so many controversies that like, she's not like the perfect person to do this. So maybe they thought that it would just be another thing against that, but it's also people are coming out in favor and saying, yes, like this is what you should be using. If you have the privilege to be able to do this, this is what you should be doing, is using it against a huge corporation like a Disney. And so I just don't think that they realized how bad this was going to look for them in PR.
Yeah. I mean, while ScarJo needs to do this now so that they get this written into all future deals for all future talent, because what these studios now care about is streaming revenue, like specifically subscribers. And that isn't reflected in anyone's contract as far as the talent. I don't think they even really release those numbers of like, or if they even have them. I know they want them, but it's like, why did you sign up for this service? Was it to watch Black Widow?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It'll be it will be interesting to see also. And then obviously, we're now looking at other actors who are in similar situations where they have films that are being released simultaneously in theaters and on Disney Plus. People like Emma Stone and Emily Blunt. It's rumored that they are starting to reconsider their own contracts as well.
Yeah, everyone's starting to kind of like pile on to this, which is like very interesting. So a lot of people are kind of thinking, I'm just kind of going into the script here. A lot of people are kind of assuming that there's going to be a settlement here. Disney's not going to want this to go too far. Do you think that there is going to be a settlement? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that they will settle and that they will settle out of court because, again, you are talking about a major corporation here. And again, it's one of those things where, you know, it was alluded to earlier. I think Spencer said that they didn't fully understand how this was going to look as far as their PR goes, because by and large, I think that people, particularly people in the industry, have been very supportive of Scarlett Johansson's decision to basically go after Disney and say, hey, give me my money.
Yeah, exactly. Oh,
can we, when we get a chance, can we kind of talk about the Bob Chapeks of all this? How this is kind of all starting to fall on his shoulders. Definitely not a great start to his Disney between COVID and things out of his control and maybe things in his control. Definitely not a good start here for the post-Iger transition for Disney, right? Because if people aren't keeping track of the press cycle now.
Spencer's back.
So we just talked about, just so you missed it, we were just talking about the fact that we both think that it's likely that Disney's going to go ahead and settle. And now we're talking about I'm sorry, Ryan, continue.
The Bob Chapeks of it all.
Bob Chapeks of it all.
So,
right, yeah.
Why does every CEO look like a giant testicle? That's my question. Chapek, Bezos, Elon Musk. That's not his hair. That's Anyways, continue, Ryan.
I just okay. I think that, again, I mean, it's one of those things that, look, COVID sucks, and it made things very difficult. But at the same time, I think it is also a scenario wherein all of a sudden it pushed these studios to really invest in their streaming revenue. As we were discussing earlier, this whole idea of, well, why did you subscribe? Did you subscribe so you could watch Black Widow? Did you subscribe so you could watch The Suicide Squad, whatever it may be? But also recognizing that there is a certain portion of the population, and I know that this is very distressing to people who are big film goers, this idea that there are people that by and large, they don't go to the movies unless it's the big box office movies that, you know, yes, most likely those people would have gone and seen a Black Widow in the movie theaters. However, I think studios are seeing a real benefit to releasing things simultaneously on a streaming, be it for a premium subscription. And I would be curious to know, you know, what sort of the sales look like as far as a movie like a Black Widow goes, with people having to pay that premium price on Disney Plus in order to watch it, or Jungle Cruise, or whatever it may be. But the fact of the matter is that this was always going to happen at some point, I think, just as far as the trends go, because you look at how much reverence there is for streaming series like your Netflix original series or your Hulu series, or you know, things now being available on HBO Max. Like, if what you're putting out there isn't available on streaming, you're cutting off a large amount of your audience. So this is going to force the people who are making the money decisions to basically get with the times as far as rewriting contracts to include that, because that is a huge part of the way that we consume media.
Yeah, it's just like when everything went from, you know, anytime there's a big media change like this, it started happening when we started talking about streaming rights for TV shows and things like that. Yeah. Like, you have to start going into these contracts and changing them because everything, the way that we do it is just changing, and you have to kind of move with it.
And the numbers, right? And the reporting of those numbers and accuracy of all that kind of stuff is all going to come into play too.
Yeah, which they don't do.
It has to at some point.
Yeah, and the whole balance of power in Hollywood has relied on the if I get rich, you get rich principle. And if when something like when Disney announces like Black Widow is coming to streaming, the share price goes up. Bob Chapek makes many, many millions more dollars, but the people who make the movie don't see any of that. And that hasn't been the case in the past because they count it based off of ticket sales. And you know, even in the best of times, I think that the average American sees 4 movies a year, and I'm sure it's a lot less now. I'm sure it's way down from that. So I don't know if it's going to happen in the next round of like guild negotiations or what, but they'll have to tie it to what the corporations who run these things care about, which I guess is subscribers, because that's what Wall Street is looking at to say like, okay, is this growing? And because they don't care how many people viewed something, they care whether you pay your $7 a month to stick around. So I don't know, it's going to be weird. It's going to be weird metrics, but that's going to be the new ticket sales, I think. And and they'll have to, as they have in the past, like, work collectively to withhold their labor, aka strike, if they aren't willing to do that. As it seems to happen like every 5 to 10 years. So that's my future. That's my future prediction. I think we're all moving that direction.
Yeah. I don't think that we're going to necessarily see a whole stream of lawsuits, or I would certainly hope that we wouldn't. I would hope that this and maybe one or two more would be enough to basically be a big wake up call to the studios to go, oh, we really need to refigure out how
I would assume that there are some frantic phone calls being made to The Rock and Emily Blunt.
Well, The Rock has already been like, I'm good. We're good. I'm not worried about it.
Interesting. So but that means that they must have talked about this already, because he's not doing them a favor by he's not going to grant them money just because they're best buds. So yeah, interesting stuff. Anything coming in from the chat, or anything to remark on before we move on to Venom 2?
Yeah, I mean, people are talking. I did put one question from May that we kind of touched on. May asked, could that influence the reporting of streaming numbers, also TV shows, and does that affect writers, directors, crew, etc.? I think we touched on that a little bit.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because I think that, Spencer does bring up a really good point of this idea that they care. They don't care how many people watch. They care, are you continuing to pay your $7 to $14 a month, depending on the streaming service? So that has been actually, I think, one of the nice things about streaming is that it has allowed a lot of actors, writers, directors, et cetera, to make some really interesting programming because it is not so reliant upon straight up numbers. Again, it is reliant on overall subscriber numbers to the streaming services. So I think that you do get some really interesting projects that wouldn't necessarily get made otherwise, and they are able to take chances on newer directors and newer talent and whatnot. So I would hope that it doesn't affect it, but as we do move into an era of, okay, well, we really need to be making projects that are keeping those subscriber numbers up. I don't know. I think it would be one of those things that it wouldn't change unless they suddenly saw a big dip in subscriber numbers, but they were already at a good level of subscriber numbers before they were including these, sort of AAA projects. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Who's to say?
Remember that Bones lawsuit that we talked about like a year or two ago? It kind of was the precursor to all this, where the Bones stars and producers had to set, and then eventually Fox settled because there was this whole thing of their residuals and what their streaming residuals were without the numbers thing. And I remember we talked about in the show, and some of the panels, we all vaguely said like, this is gonna come to a head eventually, and like we've kind of been talking about something like this dropping, I think, for a couple of years now. And so it's like Danielle was saying, it's kind of a weird context of who it is and how and when, but it's kind of like a perfect storm that it's all kind of dropping now.
Yeah.
And Disney, they probably want to kick the can as far down the road as possible because they still make more money by just paying off Scarlett Johansson and like their biggest stars and just keeping the status quo of like, we keep all the streaming revenue, and just sweeping the rest under the rug. So, but it will come to a head at some point because all the talent and all of the people who work for them, the agencies and stuff like that, they all have a vested interest in seeing that money be spread amongst the people who actually make the thing. Okay, moving on. There's other movies. Other things are happening.
Believe it or not.
If you're enjoying this up till this point, please like and please subscribe. Hit the bell. Hit a thumb. Click everything that's somewhat adjacent to the video you're watching right now, and that'll be good for us in some way. All right, there is a Venom 2 trailer. Oh yeah. React, baby. I watched this twice this morning. I'm in. I've been in. I continue to be in. Oh look, that was they put my name right under Venom for a second. They seem to be leaning into the thruple of Eddie Brock, Venom, and Michelle Williams, which I appreciate. And but Danielle, I wanted to go to you for wig watch. Should we have a short funeral for Woody Harrelson's original wig?
Yeah, they definitely, and that might actually be, I couldn't tell because it's always like this film was cloaked in darkness, probably because of all of the CGI.
It's cheaper,
yeah, it's a lot cheaper to put everything in darkness. But his hair looks so much better than it looked at the end. Like, it's not even, he looked like Raggedy Andy. So it is a market difference. And then they gave him that cool haircut. Market
he looks like he manages a K-pop band in like a creepy way. I don't like either of these wigs.
Yeah, it's not, they're markedly better than the last one. So congratulations. I wasn't able to see Michelle Williams' side part, but I think that might actually be her hair. So well done. Kudos, movie. Yeah. You've done it again. The magic of movie making.
Aside from the wigs, anything else interest you or put you off about Venom 2?
I've never been like hugely into Carnage, but I like just watching the reaction of Venom, like in the trailer. He's like, "Oh, he's red," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's the funniest thing."
We gotta go. Yeah, because for me, I think that like watching the trailer for this movie, I went, "Okay, I'm kind of on board," but one of the things that I really love, I have to admit that I really enjoyed the first Venom movie.
Hard set.
Sure, you're among friends here, yeah.
And it's because it felt like a script from like 2001, and I absolutely loved that about it, and how just unabashedly basic it was, and it was great. And I felt like I was sort of missing that in this trailer until the point that Venom and Carnage had the face-to-face, and he went, "He's red," and just noped out of there. And I went, okay, this is the Venom movie I signed up for. And yeah, when you have the scene where he runs into Michelle Williams and she's in the car, and Venom makes Eddie punch her new man in the face. It was great.
Yeah, I love the return of Dan from Veep, and give him every asshole role from now to the end of time.
He makes a great Baxter. He makes a really good Baxter.
Really good. Yeah, the dream of the late 90s is alive in Venom. I just think everything about this screams like they made this in 1998 and put it in a time capsule, and we're all opening it up together, and enough time has passed that we're all nostalgic for that. Frankly, bad time in culture and film.
Very bad.
But better better in our lives for sure.
It looks, but the only difference is that it looks better, and that's fine by me.
Not that much better.
I know.
Not that much better though.
They just know to put it in dark. They know to make everything dark now and not try to do it.
If you spliced in like shots from Spawn in the trailer, I don't think you'd notice.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, audience, I challenge you to do that. Like, please recut this trailer and just throw in a couple scenes from Spawn and see if anybody notices.
So there you go. That's the Venom 2 Spawn challenge. Yeah, and I'm super excited for how excited Tom Hardy appears to be about these films. He has story by credit on this one. Apparently, that was how his pandemic hobby was getting really into the script of Venom 2. I want him jumping in all the lobster tanks, just a series of lobster tanks.
That's one of those things where I'm like, was he getting into the script at home, or was he making changes on set like a madman?
No, I think he was doing it from the back of a motorcycle. You know, really getting into character. It's like leaning up against it. And just practicing his Eddie Brock voice, which is like, sounds really weird. It's kind of like Bobcat Goldthwait, but I wonder if he'll still be a blogger. That'll be funny.
Well, he's doing a deep dive. It's actually a little like reminiscent of the new Halloween movie.
Yep, with the podcasters.
With the podcasters. Yeah, that we're like, we're gonna go to this hardcore like institution for serial killers, and you're like, you're podcasters. I don't think you'd have that sort of access, but okay.
He's like he's like a Vice News reporter. He's like, hey, I just found out there's like this crazy killer like down in this basement. I'm gonna go check him out. Let's go.
I would love it if the My Favorite Murder ladies just showed up to go interview Carnage. How amazing would that be?
Yes. Yeah. If Karen and Georgia are in this movie, it's actually the best movie that's ever been made already. So
they get into the Carnage suit and they're like, it's got pockets. Yeah, it's great.
All right. I'm going to skip briefly over J.K. Simmons being Commissioner Gordon again, which we're all very excited for, I'm sure. And the Waterworld sequel, which I know the three of us are excited for, but probably nobody else. And we're going to do a few live chat questions before we kick it to. Eric went to a Suicide Squad junket, so I buried the lead here. He actually talked to James Gunn, John Cena, and Joel Kinnaman. See, we have this show's good. But we just don't tell you about it until you've already tuned out. So let's do a few fan questions before that. Hust21 writes, is there a non-horror movie that you're terrified to watch again?
Yes.
Non-horror. Okay. Yeah, what's that?
Yes. Garbage Pail Kids movie.
Yeah.
That movie scared me so much when I was a kid. Like it's not even Uncanny Valley. Like those puppets and like that makeup, everything is creepy and upsetting and distressing. And even when I see clips of it, because people will put like little things of it on the timeline, I nope right out of there. So I do not need to see the Garbage Pail Kids movie ever again.
Yeah. For me, it's anything Pinocchio or Pinocchio adjacent. I hate Pinocchio because same thing where I was really traumatized as a child by the boys turning into donkeys. I hated it. And the fact that they were like crying for their moms and they wanted to leave, like that just upset me. And I've been put off of Pinocchio ever since. I remember watching, what was it? AI, the one with Haley Joel Osment. That's like a Pinocchio adjacent story. And I was in the movie theater watching it, I remember, and realized partway through that it was Pinocchio. And I just mentally was gone for the rest of the movie. I couldn't tell you anything about it.
I never need to watch Requiem for a Dream again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best anti-drug PSA ever made. That like skirts the line with horror, because the other one was also what's his name? God, who made that movie? I'm blanking on it. Darren Aronofsky.
Darren Aronofsky,
Black Swan, another one that I never need to watch again. Mother, another one that I never need to watch again. But his are like artsy horror, so I don't know if that counts, but that's my answer. All right, Jeff Beeler asks, I was looking at the movie release schedule. Noticed the last 2 weeks in August are empty, but studios are betting on theaters being open in November and December. Overly optimistic? When do we think theaters will actually be open again? Like fully, no restrictions?
I mean, you know, our theaters were fully open, no restrictions for a brief period in time. They're still pretty open, if I'm being honest. You know, there's restrictions as far as still having to wear masks and stuff because it's an indoor public location, but they have yet to go back to there's like 3 seats in between your party and anybody else that is going to the movies. So, I mean, I think the question is more, when are theaters going to be open to a point that they're doing the same kind of, they can reasonably expect to do the same kind of box office that they would have done previously. And I think it's going to be years, quite frankly, because as Spencer pointed out, the average person only goes to 4 movies a year. So there you go.
Yeah, I think we're seeing like I don't think it's going to get as bad as it was, knock on wood, but I do think we're seeing like we're going to see like a bouncing ball of COVID, like boom, ba bum, ba bum, ba bum, just like these spikes and lulls, and that process could take years. And there will be people who won't want to go sit in a room with other coughers until that's played itself out. All right, final question. Before the junket, BH Pitt, I assume that's Brad. He's going on vacation this week. What is the best movie to watch on a plane? What's a good plane watch?
Good plane watch.
I don't have a specific one, but I have like a category of movies, and that is the ones that like are total popcorn dumb movies that you probably missed, like a Power Rangers reboot. If you hadn't seen Venom would be a perfect plane movie.
I just watched Jungle Cruise. That would be a great plane movie. It's just The Mummy 1999 on the Amazon River. It's great. It's not going to win any awards, but it was really fun. I'm trying to think of other movies like that. If you haven't watched the Fear Street trilogy, it's so fun. It's all on Netflix. Just really fun horror movies that pay homage to 90s horror movies, to 70s horror movies, and then do like a sort of like 1600 Salem witch trial sort of thing and go back. They were just a blast. So if you haven't watched those, I would recommend checking them out.
Yeah, I would say just because like I'm so TV biased, like I'm usually pretty like I watch a lot of TV and stuff on planes. And now with a lot of these, like they'll have some options where you can watch some TV, or for some of these you can actually download it. Who knows? But if you have access to an Apple TV and you're able to, I think like if you could catch up on some Mythic Quest, that would be pretty cool.
Mythic Quest,
yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, there you go. And that's probably better is to bring your own rather than the hilariously edited down airplane versions that are like formatted for a screen this big and they cut out all the boobs, drugs, and violence, which we all know is the best part. Speaking of which, Eric has a fun junket for the Suicide Squad, which I'm super excited to watch, both the junket and the film. More on that later this week. But for now, enjoy Eric's sit down. Thanks, Emma. Thanks, Danielle. See y'all soon. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. You know the deal. Successfully complete the mission, you get 10 years off your sentence. You fail to follow my orders in any way, and I detonate the explosive device in the base of your skull.
This is suicide.
Well, that's kind of our thing.
We did a poll at our very popular DCEU wiki at Fandom asking the fans who they thought was the most dangerous member of the Suicide Squad, keeping in mind that dangerous can mean a lot of different things to different people, and they haven't seen the movie yet. I'm curious, who do you think won that poll?
King Shark.
King Shark is, I think that's the correct answer.
The winner was actually Harley Quinn with 36%, but number 2 was King Shark at 32% there.
All right.
So you guys would both go with King Shark, though, if you had to pick?
With a Great White.
It seems like, according to the DC universe, King Shark is a big number 2.
That's very true. And what do both Peacemaker and Rick Flag make of King Shark? Because that is an interesting dude to have in a van with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think, they appreciate him and his power, but, it would be really unfortunate if he would eat the rest of the team.
Certainly one to keep an eye on, for sure.
Ratatouille, what do you got?
Bird.
Now wait. Stay off the comm.
Who do you think won the dangerous poll?
Who won the poll?
Yeah.
Bloodsport?
Bloodsport came in 3rd, but number 1 was Miss Harley Quinn, followed by King Shark.
As you see the movie, you understand the answers. Probably Polka Dot Man or Ratcatcher.
Right.
Probably the 2 most powerful. The way I found Polka Dot Man was I looked up who is the world's lamest supervillain. And there was a time when that was actually in the movie. The Thinker says it too. But I took this character who people thought is ridiculous and tried to give him life and give him emotion and give him depth and make him somebody that we love, not only care about, but that we actually love. And if Polka Dot Man can have meaning, any of us can.
I cherish peace with all my heart. I don't care how many men, women, and children I need to kill to get it.
I thought you were the crazy one.
Oh, yeah.
This movie, very sort of proudly outrageous and R-rated, but then you make these shifts into some really emotional, heartfelt moments. For you, when you're coming up with these scenes, and sometimes it is within a scene, characters might have to change. How much thought goes into that? Are there times where you're like, maybe I need to pull back the comedy in this scene, or maybe is this scene going too, much into emotion? Is there a magic to that alchemy, or does it just kind of flow as it flows?
I never think I'm going too much into emotion unless it becomes melodramatic instead of dramatic. There are times when people push things, and I don't want that to happen. But I never shy away from the emotion, and I never shy away from the outrageousness, as long as it's something that's involving to the audience instead of pushing them away. You can do things that push them away, and there are times when we, ride that line a little bit. There's a couple of violent moments in the movie. I go, oh, is that a little too much? But I leave it in. But there's also things that I took out. There's violent moments in which I took out because I thought it was just kind of belaboring the point and was unnecessarily gratuitous.
When I read the script, I was laughing at every page, basically. But what I didn't expect was to see, when I saw the film, were these moments that you were talking about, these little moments of emotional depth and vulnerability, that they would flow so seamlessly into this big, spectacular, colorful, gory action comedy spectacle. That is really hard to not make it feel forced, to actually just to to get those moments with the characters when they are open and vulnerable, and it doesn't feel pretentious or plastered on top of it. That was a real artistic feat.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun because you're nervous, because you know it's pretty tricky, and you know it's a risk, and I admire that. You know, you don't get complacent, you don't get comfortable. I'm eagerly anticipating audiences to see the Suicide Squad for that very reason.
We're all gonna die.
I hope so.
Oh, for f***ing sake.